Welcome, everyone, to the Union Federation podcast, where we discuss both Star Trek and the Orville here on the Fandom Podcast Network. And we are discussing, this is episode number 144, and we're discussing the Orville New Horizons, Season 3, Episode 10, Future Unknown. And this is, right now, it is the season finale. We will discuss whether or not it's the series finale, but we are going to go into full detail of Future Unknown, so a little warning here. Spoiler alert. All right. My name is Kevin. I will be your captain of this Union Federation. I'd like to welcome, as always, my co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network, Mr. Kyle Wagner. How are you, sir?
I am doing very well. Oh, wait, is that a breakfast sandwich that just appeared before me? Sorry, that happens every once in a while. I don't know if
I love it when that happens.
Yeah, a little sausage, a little bacon. It's all good. No, I am excited to talk about this very interesting season finale of the Orville. I say interesting because I have a lot of thoughts here for this episode.
Okay. Well, I'm not trying to get favoritism among you, Kyle, or the rest of our guests who are going to join us here, but I have my my up vote, down vote badge on right now from Majority Rules, and I need some help with some up votes here. So make sure you touch my buttons. So.
Ladies and gentlemen, just so you know, his down votes are making Lamar look good. So he really needs the up votes right now.
But I am wearing my Latchcom championship shirt here. So I did win. I still have a scar, but it's okay. With us again is our science officer, and I think maid of honor, Hayley Stoddard. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. I actually got to leave the science station just specifically to be here today.
Nice.
I have to go back.
Okay, that's fine. Well, we'll make it a party first before you get. We won't get you like Grayson drunk, but we'll get you lit up a little bit. So yeah.
Fantastic.
And as a guest here on the Fandom Podcast Network from time to time, this man I've known for a very, very long time, and he actually was the best man at my wedding. I'd like to welcome my good friend, Cat Ceder. Woo, woo, woo. What's up, buddy?
What's up? Not much, guys, going on, everybody. Thanks for the invite. It's fun to be here.
Good. Now, I just want to say, really appreciated you with being my best man. You were better than Bortus, I'm just going to say.
Well, at least I didn't sing.
Amy Nelson is still a little busy doing her stuff. I think she's got a delayed high school reunion that she's going to this weekend, but hopefully we can have her back when we do our wrap up of the final season of the Orville coming soon. So make sure you check that out. Again, this is Union Federation episode 144, talking the Orville New Horizons season 3, episode 10, Future Unknown. But before we go into that, we got some news to get into here. All right, guys, we lost a legend in the Star Trek universe. Nichelle Nichols, who played Uhura in Star Trek, dies at age 89. I had a chance to meet her once when I got her autograph. I believe it was at Dragon Con. Just spoke to her briefly. Wonderful, wonderful woman. We know that the impact that she had, not just in science fiction, but in cultural, the cultural statement that she's made and the steps that she made for women, and not just women, but African-American women, just goes a long, long way. And according to the article here on Variety, Nichelle Nichols, who portrayed communications officer Uhura in the original Star Trek series, died Saturday night in Silver City, New Mexico. She was 89 years old. Nicole's death was confirmed by Gilbert Bell, her talent manager and business partner in 15 years. Nichols shared one of the first interracial kisses in television history on Star Trek. That moment with her co-star William Shatner was a courageous move on her part. Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry and NBC considering the climate at the time. But the episode Plato's Stepchildren, which aired in 1968, was written to give all involved an out. Uhura and Captain Kirk did not choose to kiss, but were instead made to do so involuntarily by aliens with the ability to control the movements of humans. Nevertheless, it was a landmark moment. Nicole Nichols suffered a stroke in 2015, was diagnosed with dementia in 2018, touching off a conservatorship dispute between her manager Belle and her son, as well as her friend. Nichols was married and divorced twice. She is survived by her son, Kyle Johnson. Hayley, your thoughts on the news when you heard about the passing of Nichelle Nichols?
Yeah, so I never actually had a chance to meet her in my convention going days, and so I'm really kind of bummed about that. I think, she had this incredible role at a time. TOS is Chloe's favorite of the series, and I know that she likes Uhura, even though Spock is her favorite. I really appreciated the work that she did when she partnered with NASA, just in inspiring other women to strive for that, to be astronauts, and to help them recruit female astronauts and minority astronauts. And so, it's really sad to see her go. I've had family go from dementia, and it's really hard, and it's really sad to see what happens. And she'll be missed.
Kyle, your thoughts?
As I said, Kevin and I did a live culture clash last night on our Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel. We talked about Nichelle. I just want to echo what I said there. Absolutely amazing person, groundbreaking actress, not only for racial, but just for women in general. She was one of the first really strong on-screen characters in science fiction, and she broke the glass window for a lot of women and African Americans through what she did on Star Trek. And you wonder, if we didn't have her as her, do we get a Princess Leia down the road? Do we get some of the other amazing women that we've seen through science fiction? And just a sweetheart of a person, and just a great ambassador for everything that was Star Trek. And she will be missed.
Kat, your thoughts on Nichelle's passing?
Same as both of them. However, like you, Kevin, I got a chance to meet her when I was at LA Comic Con, which was Stan Lee's Kamikaze. And ironically, I was dressed as a stormtrooper when I met her. And she came over and started talking to me. I took off my helmet. We talked for about 20 minutes. Super lovely lady, very friendly, very, out there, and very sad that she passed away.
Yeah, a legend. And what makes it sad is whenever you see one of those Star Trek original cast photos taken from the movies, and they're wearing their monster maroons, and you slowly see one person being grayed out, because they've passed away, and now we're down to just two original members, and it's sad, But the impact that she has made and the rest of that cast and crew will live on forever. So rest in peace, Nichelle Nichols. All right, guys, let's get into segment 2, and let's start that quantum drive. All right, this is Future Unknown, Season 3, Episode 10. Is it the last episode? We'll discuss that. This episode aired August 4th, 2022. Captain's Log episode synopsis. Hayley, take it away.
Following a renewal of vows for Bortus and Clyden, the Orville is sent to check in on researchers on Sargas 4, only to find themselves surprised by a message from Lysella, first encountered in Season 1, Episode 7, Majority Rule, who requests asylum aboard the ship. Meanwhile, Bortus and Clyden's reunion has compelled Isaac to renew his commitment to Claire by proposing to her. After some deliberation, Claire accepts, and the crew begins planning the wedding. Kelly attempts to help Lysella adjust to life in the Union, but after witnessing the technological advances and interpersonal relationships between various species, Lysella expresses guilt at leaving her society behind and asks to return. Before she can depart, however, Kelly and Tala discover that Lysella is attempting to smuggle out a comm scanner loaded with information on futuristic technology to change her world. Kelly, however, shows her a simulation of a world the Union attempted to help in a similar fashion, only for it to fall into ruin only a few years later, leading the Union to ban interfering in a planet's natural development. In light of this, Lysella decides to stay. The crew, along with the Kalon fleet, gather for the wedding ceremony, with Kelly as the maid of honor and Bortus as the best man. Alara returns for the reception, and Gordon gives a touching speech, followed by performing a song as the Orville sails off into the stars.
As you pointed out, either last episode, Hayley, or previous ones, one of the things that you liked about this season of Orville is they are returning to planets that they have been to and have affected. All right, guys, I want to get your first reactions to this episode. Now, I want to save the deep discussion of what we wish maybe we would have gotten, and the reactions to this episode in general going forward, and how it didn't quite get us exactly what we wanted, but did it give us something that we did want? But I want your first reactions. And Kat, you're our guest here. You called me yesterday, and I can repeat what the first words that you said to me. I said, wait, just say it on the show, but keep in mind in the language.
Sure. Pick on the new guy. That's what you do, huh? For the show in itself, there was a couple of funny bits. Other than that, I thought it was garbage. Very disappointed. And I'm keeping it clean.
All right. Okay. Interesting. All right. Kyle, your thoughts?
It wasn't what I expected. I think the best way I can sum it up for me is it was a solid episode of the Orville, but I'll be honest with you, this felt like it should have belonged in season 2. It felt like a little bit of a step backwards as far as what we've got. So
why do you think it should have been in season 2 as opposed to not earlier in this season?
It could have been earlier in the season, but I mean, when I say it had the feel of a season 2 episode compared to how season 3 episodes have felt and how they've been written in the style they've been in. This felt like, okay, we've taken a step back a season to what the creative process was. And not that it was a bad episode. It just felt out of place, especially considering what this episode could be. So, and I'll get into more detail of that when I get, but that was kind of my first reaction. Was I enjoyed it, but there's a lot of thoughts going in my head about it.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Hayley.
I laughed a lot more than I thought I would. And I can echo with Kyle. I think that as far as like the overall attitude of the episode, it felt very familiar with season 1 and season 2, just because of the humor and things like that. It was still mature enough though. And I have to say, if this is where they leave it, and there's that possibility, and I know we'll talk about it, of possible other whatevers. I have to say, if they leave it with this, they left it well. They kind of left it in that, Star Trek 6, where they're going off to the stars and just over there, second star to the left, and just keep on going. And you can imagine in your own mind of the stories that are continuing.
I'm kind of with you, Hayley, but okay, so the big question I had at the end of last episode, and I'm sure you guys all felt the same, was what's going to happen with Mercer's daughter, with Talea? Is that going to be not necessarily wrapped up, but is it going to be addressed? And I'm not halfway through. As you know, one of the things I like to do is when I start an episode, I usually pause it right away to see how long it's going to be. I didn't do that. Maybe because I forgot. I just wanted to take my mind and go into it open-minded and seeing, okay, I'm in this ride. Let's see how far it goes. And I'm guessing about 20 minutes in, the whole Lysella thing is coming into play here. I'm going, okay, this is great. This was one of those episodes in season 1 that they're tying back to that had a big social commentary about it. And we'll discuss that a little bit more in this episode. But I'm like going, wait a minute. They're not going to do it, are they? They're not going to touch on that. And I had to take a second. I paused and go, okay, so they are doing something different here. All right, I'm going to be open-minded to it, and I'm going to go on the ride. And I'm kind of glad I did that, because I don't think I ended it being as disappointed as some people are, like maybe Cat was, that they wanted to try to sew up a relationship, but, you know, make it advance to the next level, you know, with Isaac and Claire. But there were some great character moments in this, and character development moments as well, which I'm thinking like, okay, if this is the last episode, we really got to know these characters. We got to see some stuff kind of come back and resolve as well. Leaving something out there on a fish hook for us, or a carrot, as you want to say, that we still want to see, we still want to happen, I think is a good thing. It wasn't a cliffhanger. Like some shows have been canceled after a cliffhanger, which I think we've learned from now on to never do again in today's day and age. But it left us wanting more. And I feel that no matter what happens, we have not seen the last of the Orville. Now, one of the things that I like to do is I like to have a little fun check here, guys. Now, this episode had a lot of fun checks, a lot of fun things that happened, a lot of funny moments. I want to touch on these and get your thoughts on it. Kyle, as you alluded to earlier, and when it happened in the episode, I said, I hope we get the sandwich coming back in a scene, and we got it. And Hayley is trying to hold in an upchuck reflex right now because maybe it's the sandwich itself. But the sandwich returns. Hayley?
I wouldn't have eaten that. You don't know where that's been.
But maybe it's been like frozen in time, so it hasn't had a chance to age. Obviously, it tasted good according to Gordon.
Well, technically, it should only have been a few seconds later than in time, even though it was 3 months later.
True.
Yeah.
Still, you just don't know where it's been. I mean, it could have been anywhere, and space germs on it. Like, you know, in NASA, when they first went to the moon, they were like, we don't know what you're going to bring back. You have to be quarantined for like months to make sure that you didn't bring back alien germs. So you don't know where that sandwich has been.
She's throwing in the science there, Kyle.
She's throwing in the science, but she's also not considering the Malloy factor of all of this.
Yeah.
It's just been traveling through time. Who knows what it's been? I don't care. I've been waiting for this sandwich.
Cat, I think during that original scene in that previous episode, we were saying, I don't know if we would have done an egg salad sandwich. What sandwich would you have put there to have come back?
Probably something that wouldn't stink like that. Tricky. PB&J.
PB&J, that's a good one.
Classic standby. Yeah. You're always safe there. Egg salad, tuna salad, yeah. I don't care if you're time traveling and it's frozen in time or not. There is a limited expiration time on that. So.
Yeah, there maybe like a Subway BTL or something like that. That would have been good for me, you know. So, all right, guys. Naked Mocklins, sort of. Thoughts of Bortus and Clyden's wedding renewal. I thought, okay. You got to give it to the makeup artist for creating a Mocklin suit for these actors to run in with barely their Mocklin mankinis.
Is that what we're calling it?
That's what I'm calling it. But
okay.
First of all, before I get your guys' take on this, do you guys remember the movie Not Another Teen Movie? That was a parody of all the 80s and 90s teen movies. Hayley, did you see it?
Probably, and probably only once.
Okay. Well, there was a very funny ongoing scene of this kid that wanted to start the slow clap, but he just couldn't get it right. And then he misses his opportunity at the end of the movie and someone else starts it. We get Malloy starting the slow clap, which I thought was kind of funny. Your guys' thoughts on this scene? Cat, start with you.
I thought that was the best part of the wedding. Everyone's looking on going, is it over? What do we do?
Cat started the slow clap. Kyle.
I thought this was a great way to open up this episode. I thought it was like, okay, great. They're going to wrap up a few loose end storylines here before we get into the meat of the episode. It was fun. It was reminiscent to me of a lot of kind of things that we saw in season 2. And I think it was good to get a little bit of finality and full circle with Clyden and Bortus too, to see that at least that aspect of it, they tie up that loose end, and it was fun, and it was a great moment. And I'm gonna say it. Scott Grimes kind of steals this episode. He does a lot in this episode and steals it. And the slow clap moment was definitely one of those moments.
Haley, your thoughts on that scene?
I thought this was super cute and also really super weird and awkward.
Yeah. Wait, can I just give a shout out to Mr. Macon and Chad Coleman's conditioning to be running around in those suits like that?
God, I know, right?
And jumping.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was super weird, but I liked it. I mean, hey, all right, cool.
What is I'm sorry, what is it? Troy's race?
But no. Oh my gosh.
Wrong universe.
Starts with a B. Starts with a B.
I know.
Betazoid.
Betazoid. Can you imagine a Betazoid and Mocklin union?
No.
Because remember, Betazoid weddings are done in the nude. Just throwing that out there. Of course, after watching this scene, and the question in my mind was, where does the egg come from? Anyway, okay.
I mean, we could have gotten it if the relationship with Worf would have kept going, because the Mocklins are the Orville's Klingons, and so, but that was just awkward and weird.
Yeah, that's true. I think my favorite line in the entire season 3 is when Kelly, Tala, and Claire are having a drink, talking about Claire's wedding proposal from Isaac, and Ed walks in and gives advice about the kid's opinion. And Kelly goes, after Ed has made his good suggestion, "You've been useful, sober man. You may go now." Great line. I also thought Malloy, here, as you mentioned, Kyle, he steals a scene here. Says, "Hey, John, the captain wants you to join the Sargas 4 landing party." John goes, "What? Ha! Totally messing with you. You shouldn't have seen the look on your face." And John goes, "You asshole."
Now, the next moment, though, Kevin, was one of the scenes of the episode.
Yes. So Dr. Finn's reaction to Lamar's dating and courtship advice. Finn goes up to her. Of course, this is where you see, and I love this view of the engineering room because that set is fantastic. You see, like, Finn comes storming in, and she's pissed, and goes, "Lamar, if you ever again give Isaac a single tidbit of personal advice, even if it's about the cologne to use, I will come down here and I will eat your little punk ass for breakfast with a glass of grapefruit. You got me?" So the question I have for you guys, should Lamar keep giving dating advice, or should he keep it to himself? Because you guys remember that advice he gave to Malloy where he should have all the zippers on his jacket? Hayley, I'm going to start with you. You're shaking your head.
Lamar is with a different woman and has no solid relationship for a reason, and it's his own advice that he's giving to himself and then giving to others. No, he should shut his trap and maybe learn from other people instead.
That's a good point, Kat.
I totally agree 100% with Hayley.
Kyle.
Absolutely, he should not be giving out advice, but I'm going to say this too. Claire has a slightly different version of the speech in her back pocket for Malloy when the time comes as well.
That's a good point. That one thing I didn't put in the notes that I did like about this episode was it I don't know the name of the room, and it would be a question I would ask on a panel. The room that they go to materialize stuff and then to take. And this is the room, if you remember, they had it in season 1. I think it was there was the jacket episode, with the zipper jackets. They go into this room, and then there's these matter devices that is brought up in this episode that can make anything, and then you walk out of it. Claire's trying on her dresses. I don't know what room that is, but I gotta have one of those rooms. Okay, guys. The bachelorette party was way more fun than the bachelor party. Would you agree, Ailey? Bortus is Elvis or a Kalon stripper?
They were both funny in their own right for their own reasons.
Now hold on. Was that wasn't Isaac? What was that?
No,
it
was Kelly and Tala programmed that into the simulator. So no, it wasn't. I don't know.
The tassel came out.
Oh my gosh. It reminded me kind of a little bit of like the Austin Powers movies.
Yeah.
With the tassel. Oh my, I was dying. I don't know which would be more awkward to go to, honestly. I think maybe they should have combined their parties and then maybe it would have been a little bit more fun for everybody all around. I don't know. I don't know which one I'd go to.
Kat, which party would you have gone to?
At the party that Malloy went to when we pin him in when he wakes up.
So the bachelor party, you would have gone to that one.
Yeah, the bachelor party.
Okay. Kyle.
Come on, I'm going to the bachelorette party because at least there's much better looking things around to look at, and come on, at least they're a little more lively. And I have to say, I'm seriously wondering if Commander Grayson was either hungover or had a buzz on this entire episode.
I've brought that up before. I'm just saying. But yes, I would have also have joined the bachelorette party. All right, guys. Got to tell you, I'm a big fan of the set dressing, big fan of the costumes. I love those white Orville dress uniforms during Claire and Isaac's wedding. I love it when you get to see the formal attire when it comes to Star Trek. And I thought these looked really sharp. I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that. But also, Kelly and Ed share a handhold and a smile during the ceremony. Thoughts on that, Kat, and the uniforms?
I thought they looked really good. They were crisp, sharp, and they really sort of popped up from the background of the foliage and the green, all that stuff. So they really stood out. So you could see when they do wide shots, like, oh wait, there's an old member. They looked spot on, in my opinion. As for the hand holding, let's see in season 4.
Kyle.
As far as the uniforms go, absolutely sharp. I hope we see them again. And what made them pop so well was, too, with the contrast of all the Kalon there with their dark gray and everything like that. It really made those white and blue uniforms really pop and look sharp. But I also like the fact that, the colors did match what their rank was. If you look, like Malloy's was the orange and things like that. So I really like that, but they just look sharp. As far as the Ed and Kelly handshake or hand-holding moment, I'm not making a lot out of that. I think we're at the point with their relationship where they're close, they have a bond, they're there for each other, they have that chemistry, but they both know they can't go back. It's just, it's there. They have this love for each other, but I just think they both realize that they're both committed to the union ahead of even their own relationship, but they can have these moments and share these moments and have that love and chemistry between them.
Hayley, your thoughts on the uniforms in that moment?
Yeah, those uniforms snap. Just saying. They are
That's
sharp.
a good thing.
Yeah. When the scene started, I was like, oh, that's nice. And I like Kyla say, like you said about that color, their distinction color running down the side. I think they're super sharp, remind me of the Navy dress whites, which are always kind of my favorite of the military dress uniforms. And so I wish we could have seen more of those in a lot of settings because they're nice. As far as them holding hands and sharing a look, I kind of agree with Kyle. I don't think that necessarily it means much of anything and reading too much into stuff. I think it's just that mutual love and respect and the fact that they've both grown up a lot in this season that, it's, I don't know, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
I think at the end of season 2, when we were doing these episodes, we were kind of like, okay, let's see the end of this relationship. Let's just make it a mutual, respect and colleague thing. Now they've had their history, especially with the thing with Talea and Ed. However, I'm starting to warm up to the idea of the possibility of them reconciling and getting back together. Here's why. Kelly has become a mother figure now, especially with Topa. Imagine if Ed gets custody and becomes the father he can be with his daughter now from Talea. I don't see him and Talea becoming an item anymore. Kelly has these motherly instincts. and this kind of leadership and guidance that she has been showing a lot this season. Just going to throw that out at you. She would make a good mother to an adoptive girl, and maybe they have their own daughter as well, or own son, who knows. Just going to throw that out there. I wouldn't be surprised. Do you guys have any more fun check thoughts you'd like to throw out? Anybody?
I do.
Yes, Cat.
One of the best parts I thought of the whole episode is when Isaac is inviting the entire everybody. Everybody.
Especially when you see all the Kalons on one side of the wedding, and and they think it's an invasion force.
Yeah, like what? Make sure in the most like make sure you inform it's not an invasion force.
Yes. yes. Well done. All right, guys. Oh, yeah, Hayley.
I have one. I don't know if we're gonna get into it, but I love Malloy being more upset that he's not the best man than the invasion of the Kalon, and that whole just like, I'm pissed. Like, no, I should be the best. I thought that was spot on.
When Ed says, "Wait, what's worse? Everything that the Kalon did to the Earth and all the people that died, or this?" He's like, "This."
but come on now. In Malloy's defense, Bortus did him wrong.
Yeah, we'll touch on that.
I will have to say, before we kind of go on into any other things, there's a couple of things that I really want to mention. I was trying to find the opening music because I loved the jazz, and then it twisted and it turned into this very like 50s television like theme song kind of sound.
Mancini song, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
That was super awesome. And then I think one of my other favorite things in this episode is when Claire does go talk to her kids. And they're both like, yeah, we already know, because ship gossip. Hello. And also Marcus being a man and telling his mom to go say yes rather than talking to them about it.
Yeah. Marcus
was fans. I love
Marcus's turn is done really well. Just a heads up, if you don't already watch the show with subtitles, sometimes when a song comes on, it'll say what song it is. Kyle.
I just want to, on the song, that was so much a Seth MacFarlane choice too. As soon as that music came, I'm like, oh yeah, Seth chose this music.
Yeah. All right, guys. So the one thing I wanted to talk about in our opening topic discussions here after the fun check is the connections that this episode has to season 1, episode 7. This goes back. Majority Rule first aired October 26, 2017. And if you guys remember, the inhabitants of Sargas 4 develop a social system in which everything is determined by complete popular vote. All adults must wear a vote badge like I'm wearing right now. Down and up votes are given freely based on the opinions of others, and a badge displays the total number of respective votes. Those with high numbers of down votes might be barred from private establishments, such as coffee shops, or even charged with the crime and forced to go through an apology tour. Doctored vote badges are also sold on the black market with preset vote tallies. So I wanted to get your guys' first reactions that they were tying this back to this episode, and we get Lysella back in here. Let's start with you, Kat.
Well, I remember that episode. I don't remember everything about the episode until you started talking about it, but it's good that they show. It's good that they tie things in from a show to a show, even if it's 2 or 3 seasons later. Although I didn't realize it was 5 years ago until you said it. I'm like, 2017. Geez, what was I doing then? But all in all, yeah, no, I liked that whole idea of the tie-in with the episode. Again, I don't really remember it all that well because I didn't watch as much as I should of this show. But that'll change when it hits a streaming service so that we can get Orville season 4. Just putting it up there.
Kyle, we've talked about how this season has been tying a lot of stuff back in previous seasons. And they did that with this episode with Lysella wanting to, come aboard. And the majority rule, of course, that happening with Lamar kind of doing an obscene gesture dance on in public and on a what was it, a statue, I think, that got him in a lot of trouble.
Statue of somebody very important on that planet. I gotta say, I was a little surprised that we got this connection. I didn't think this one kind of came a little bit out of left field for me, but I like how they handled it. I like the fact we didn't go back to the planet. I like the fact that it was Get Lacella. We didn't see what was going on the planet. We just heard it from her, because I think that plays a big part into something we'll talk about in the away missions, and why, and them choosing to do it that way, because I think it really made it more impactful. But yeah, I was surprised that this was a planet that we did revisit, and just even if we didn't see it, we've got the political climate of it.
Hayley, were you surprised that we revisited that episode in that planet and that issue?
Yeah, I definitely was not expecting it at all. I think it ties in well as the B story to this episode of what's going on, and kind of tying it to stuff now was a really nice touch. But like Kyle was saying, that came out of left field for me, to use a baseball reference.
Kevin, I think one of the reasons why it came out of left field is because of what we were expecting from previous episodes and what was going on. It was totally. Really a drastic left turn.
Oh, totally. It was. And this show has been surprising us, whether we wanted it to or not, in certain directions. And before I forget, I do have one major issue with this season. Just going to throw it out there right now so I never forget it. Engineering. You see the same people in engineering pretty much. You see the girl that Lamar dated. You know, she's had a little more scenes. But then there's like the weird green bubbly head monster guy that doesn't speak English. Why are they selling this guy? Why isn't that Dan? Dan should be in all of those scenes. Just my opinion. All right. Not saying I don't like the alien guy. He had a few little funny moments here and there. Come on. We barely got Dan this season. Need more Dan. Just saying. All right.
He got promoted to chief engineer of another ship, Kevin.
No, he did not. We didn't see that. Didn't happen. Okay. All right. Back to the Lacella and Kelly discussion here, guys. I do want to get your opinions on this. And so this is about the discussion that Kelly has about the Union, and you could say Star Trek's Federation involvement since a matter synthesizer and your career, I should say evolvement, not involvement, sorry. Since the matter synthesizer was invented, and this career reputation thing that she brings up. Because Lacella had stolen an Orville comm device originally before her return to Sargas 4. We didn't find that out till this one. And then, of course, she tries to do it again. She tries to return in a noble way, I guess you could say, because it doesn't have like weapon stuff on it. It's more about, trying to be a positive influence, at least in her mind. But there's an interesting little discussion here that I want to bring up, guys. Lacella says to Kelly, if nobody has a job, then why do you guys all work? Kelly says the right work can be satisfying for other reasons besides compensation. It's funny, with all the technology and all the different alien cultures, this is still the part that newcomers always have the hardest time adapting to. I couldn't help but think when she said that, Seth was saying, this is what Star Trek fans have been wondering the whole time, and how we would deal with this. And thus, Orville fans might be thinking the same thing as well. Lacella says, I mean, it's just so basic. You have a job, you survive. You don't starve. Kelly goes on to say, used to be that way on Earth too, until the invention of the matter synthesizer. It was the single most transformative moment in our history, when all your material needs are provided for at no cost. It changes the entire game. And Lacella replies saying, so then why don't you guys just lay around all day and do nothing? Okay. And these are questions I'm sure we've asked ourselves watching Star Trek. Kelly replies, well, it's sort of a frowned upon socially, but more important than that, it's no fun. See, on your planet, currency is money. Earth. In the Union, it's reputation. So if you do anything that benefits our society and you work hard at it, you're rich. And that could be anything from being a great scientist, or being a great doctor, great chef, or a great waiter. It's all valued. Or maybe you want to study a field of research, learn all you can about history, physics, literature, or art, just for your own pleasure. That's a respected life too. The only life considered poor is that's wasted on apathy. In case you don't know what apathy means, lack of interest, enthusiasm, or concern. From a fan's perspective, this explains Star Trek a lot. So, my questions for you guys. How do you think the invention of the matter synthesizer would directly impact us if it were invented soon? We kind of have that right now with 3D printers, but it hasn't gone all that way yet. And if you had all of your material and health needs met, what would you do? Cat?
Good night. Take a nap. Oh, no. Seriously, what I would do, I would probably gather up all of my close friends and see the world, because there's places I want to go and things I want to do that I haven't done yet.
Like that. Kyle?
This is an interesting question to me, because you're talking about something that changes the basics of your entire society. And we were talking about how having this matter synthesizer, and we don't have to purchase things. We don't, not only that, but it fixes food issues. It fixes everything wrong, basically. A lot of things wrong within our world. It would be interesting, though, like if we saw it in today's society, because I think if people all of a sudden didn't have that responsibility, we'd all become YouTube influencers. I think the aspect of too is your society has to evolve into a way where people can chase their dreams, and that's what I think when Kelly's talking about the jobs and everything like that, people are getting to, instead of working a job because you have to work a job, you're working the job and you're given the path. You're allowed to run the pathway for the job you choose to do, the job that's fun to you, something you enjoy. You're not just working a job because you've got to make the ends meet. So that I think it changes the mental aspect, because everybody can now pursue their dreams. And also there's not, and again, it's staying productive. And it would be still interesting to see how society would react to the people who aren't productive. And I think there would still be a lot of growing pains to get through, and it would just be an interesting path to watch how that would be. And let's be realistic now. If we just got one matter synthesizer, I think in our world right now, the fight over dominance of the matter synthesizer would be kind of scary too, just in the mindset we're on now. It would be something else if, everybody gets a matter synthesizer, like Oprah was just handing them out like cars. But it's a really interesting conversation.
Answer question 2, Kyle. If you had all your material and health needs met, what would you do?
I would be like Cat. I would do some traveling. I would want to see things that I haven't had the chance to see yet. And, I would probably explore different things and learn and try different things that I would never have the opportunity to do otherwise.
Because you didn't have the time to, because you'd be working. Understood?
Exactly.
Like you always do all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hayley.
Yeah. Okay. So first off, as far as with Star Trek goes, I already like this episode explains it, but in my head, in all these years of Star Trek, kind of figured that this is just how it was. And I know we've always kind of like wondered how that works, and sometimes they have kind of touched on that, like TNG touched on that a little bit and that kind of stuff. But I just kind of figured that's what it was. People were doing what they wanted to do because they wanted to do it. Everybody's in this field. Georgie's in engineering, and people are in their respective areas because it's interesting to them and they find it enjoyable, because otherwise, why would you do it? You wouldn't. So that same type of thing. And so when Kelly's explaining it, I appreciated it, but also I had that in my head anyway. To this matter of a matter synthesizer, and if it was created soon, I think what Kelly talks about later in this episode about how they had encountered this planet, they gave him one. If it was now, oh my gosh, no, it would be exactly like that planet. The people who could afford it would have it. I mean, you look at, yes, we have 3D printers now, but not everybody has a 3D printer. Not everybody has the money to buy a 3D printer. So it's not a mass thing. And so I think that would be the case if it was somewhere where we were more advanced societally. Then yes, I could see, that would be wonderful. In my line of work, that would be wonderful. My clients would not need me, which would be really weird, because then I wouldn't have a job, but also I still would have a job. So for a lot of other reasons. And so if it happened now, it just would be scary. It would be way too soon. And then there would still be this aspect of, okay, we have these synthesizers. your material, your food, your Maslow's basic needs are taken care of. But then there's still this aspect of, and this wasn't touched on in this episode, is the fact that your society, yes, gets this technology, but then you still have things like, do bills just go away because everybody's got their Maslow's basic needs met? Because like you have to come into the situation of like, okay, here's this thing, and yet you still have probably like credit card debt and student loan debt, and you still have this to pay and this to pay and this to pay. And until that reputation is built up, what do you do? Like, do you still have this combined system of where you still have to have money to pay for things until your society gets to a spot where everybody's just like in agreement that money doesn't matter? Like Star Trek, money doesn't matter. Money's not a thing. And people trade things. And it's back to that barter system from like, the 1500s, where I make something and I trade it because you make something different and I need that thing and you need the thing that I make. And so it's kind of it's interesting because it's a regression back to that of a barter reputation. I'm a really good blacksmith, so people come to me as opposed to this other blacksmith. But then you have your Maslow's needs taken care of. So it's this really weird concept to think about. So yeah, it's quite interesting from a lot of different perspectives. Yes, I know I'm bringing up things and you're like, oh wait, I didn't think about that. Sorry. Yes.
One other thing that to bring up to that point too is it's real interesting when we look at our world today, how we're in this kind of mixture of money and reputation, because we have people who are what they call influencers now on YouTube, and they're getting paid millions of dollars now by how many people are paying them because of their subscribers, or how many people they're reaching out to them. So they're making money off of their reputation and their influence. So it's a real interesting dichotomy that's going on there. Just real quick, Kevin, undo your mute button.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so back to the reputation thing that Kelly brings up and the parallels to Star Trek. First of all, the Federation, money doesn't exist. Outside the Federation, it sure does. Latinum. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to know, though, where exactly the turning point was that the Federation in Star Trek, maybe it was after the eugenics war, World War III, that they had to, where human race came down to an extinction point, to where they were able to finally agree and matter synthesizers, were a thing, and that they realized we don't need money. That really hasn't been narrowed down as far as I remember. Hayley, you're shaking your head. So that's kind of an interesting question. And the reason why I bring that up is because, like Hayley said, if it were to happen like soon, people would be trying to hide that or sell it for money, personal gain, and we would see the Earth go into the war, just like Kelly showed Lacella. We would destroy ourselves, basically. We can make anything we want. Let's make some more weapons, So it's right now, the way the Earth is and the humans are, there's too much greed and power that has been put and bestowed upon us, that there's many, many people that just would not give that up. I think I'm with you guys, though. I would definitely, if I had my material and health needs met, I would definitely travel the world. I've had a taste of that. And once you get a taste of it, you want more. But I would also step back, preserve some memories and history, maybe open up like an old video store, even though I would need material things to do so with that, have some kind of fun, but be kind of like a museum, and just kind of preserve certain. What's that?
You've got the basis of it.
You've already got a video.
Exactly. I got a head start. But that's the thing, though. I would also like jump into music one way or another, and try to preserve, a certain type of feeling when it comes to enjoying that as well. Just little things like that. But I would definitely want to travel. I'd maybe try to actually learn some languages as well. That might be kind of fun. Hayley.
I didn't answer that, so I just thought I'd let you know. So I'll answer it too.
Go ahead, answer.
No, so I agree with you guys. I think I'd travel. I've always wanted to go to Europe and things like that. I would probably continue to still help my clients and do the work that I'm doing, because just because your Maslow's needs are met doesn't mean that we don't need social workers. So I probably still would work and do it for the enjoyment, but then I would probably cross stitch and podcast more.
You would what?
I would cross stitch and podcast more.
Gotcha.
I don't have the time to do it.
I love it. I love it. All right, guys. We pretty much know our cast here. We're going to touch on Lucella a little bit more later on. But, guys, we got Halston Sage back as Lara Katarn for the wedding. When you first see the feet walking, I was just like, oh, no, it's Alara. She's back. She's back. What were your thoughts of the return of Alara? Cat?
I think Cat has frozen.
I was surprised. I mean,
okay.
Good to see her. I liked her from the first season. But, yeah, it was good to see her back.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be her sister at first.
You know, it's interesting, too. I was wondering if we were going to get a scene with both the Zelayans in talking to each other. And we did get that. I thought that was great in the wedding. Kyle, your thoughts on the return of Alara?
So I didn't think it was Alara at first. I thought it was his daughter. When he talks about, I have a surprise. And I thought
yeah.
And you only see the feet. And then to see it be Alara, it makes perfect sense. It's fitting if this is the final episode of the Orville to get her on full circle. Obviously, the way they wrote her out, I'm glad they addressed that too about her limited. She only has so many hours she can spend in regular gravity, and she chose to spend them there and family. So it was great to have that little moment between her and Talia. I think it was just a nice way, a nice thank you to the fans too, to give everybody a chance to be part of this, what could be the final episode of the Orville.
Hayley, your thoughts on Alara's return?
It was great to see her again. That was something I was not expecting. Like Kat, I was thinking maybe it was Claire's sister, or I didn't even know who it would have been. So that was really cool.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that they did throw that tidbit out there of Claire's sister being there's some type of friction there. So that's interesting. They threw that out there. They didn't have to do that. So it's kind of interesting. I liked it. Like I said, I was surprised. But Kyle, you're right, though. I was wondering, like, what if that was Ed Mercer's daughter instead? That would have been interesting. But there needs to be a lead up into that. And whether you call it a rescue or a reunion or whatever, there needs to be more into it. So I'm kind of glad that it wasn't, especially with the way the episode was being set up. But I did enjoy seeing her back. That was really nice. Okay, it was nice to see her and Kiali together having a discussion about, the security chair and that kind of stuff. So that was neat. Now, this normally is when we dive into Michael Wynn Johnson's Den of Geek article deeply, but I don't want to do that. I want to save the main point that he made, which I find interesting, and it's a lot of what we're thinking about regarding this season finale. I'm going to save that for the away missions. But the one thing I want to get your guys' opinion on here is he does touch on the union, the marriage of course, Isaac and Claire. And he says, Isaac's desire to be with Finn desire to be with the Finn family along with Claire is strangely sweet, despite perhaps the heartbreaking implications of her mortality and Isaac living forever. Penny Johnson Gerald and Mark Jackson should both be acknowledged for.
You just said you.
I'm sorry. It looks like Cat is having a little connection problem there. Get back, Cat. Go ahead and step in and step back out there. There we go. Okay. There we go. So it looks like we had a little bit of a connection issue there. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, it looks like Cat fell out completely. Hopefully he'll be back. Those damn quantum interferences.
Yes. Anyway, let me go back a little bit here. Penny Johnson Gerald and Mark Jackson should both be acknowledged. Looks like, hold on. Cat, you're back here. He's trying to get back in here. Yeah. Cat, are you back with us?
Apparently, all I know, you guys started pausing.
That's all right. We got you now. We got you now.
Gotcha.
We had a little bit of a connection issue there. All right. Start again. Penny Johnson-Gerald and Mark Jackson should both be acknowledged for their layered and very different performances and for keeping this storyline interesting and at least enough. If the show is to continue, this is a well that the writing team can drink from as often as they would like. So your guys' opinions, I want on this. Your thoughts on this season ending with the marriage of Isaac and Claire and the fun moments leading up to it. This relationship has had a very interesting history, rocky, scary, but it has developed. And we at one time condemned this relationship, guys. Last season, we were like, let's not make this a thing. This doesn't feel like it's working. But they persisted, and now it's interesting. A couple of fun moments before I get you guys' opinion here. Of course, Bort is hijacking the best man duties from Gordon, yet funny, failing miserably with this funny Elvis moment. And as you mentioned earlier, Kat, Kalon 1 and an invasion-sized fleet arriving for the wedding. Very sweet moment, too. The song performed by Gordon Malloy during the wedding of Claire, Finn, and Isaac is Secrets of Life by James Taylor from his 1977 album, JT. The song was also used in the trailer for the episode. So, Kat, what is your thoughts on this relationship with Claire and Isaac? Did you like how it ended up with the wedding? Even though you might not have wanted this for this episode, the relationship itself.
Like you said, it was rocky. It was tough. I think the turning point for the entire relationship was when her oldest son, Marcus, said, yeah, say yes. After everything that happened, he accepted Isaac for what he is instead of a killing machine like he was, and turning the whole thing around. So the episode led up to it really well, I thought, and that, I was okay with it. I mean, I was like, cool.
Excellent point regarding the kids. Yeah. Hayley, your thoughts on this union?
I mean, I've shared my thoughts on this whole aspect of her dating Isaac in the first place, but I like that they left it with this. It seems like a natural thing. I think, I immediately kind of sensed what was coming when Clyde and Bortus were renewing their marriage, because you see Isaac going like, huh. And then I was like, he's going to ask Claire to marry him. And then he does, but he does all this research and learns how to do it and stuff like that. And so it was really sweet, led to a great moment. I think, again, if this is it, that was a really nice end to that storyline as far as them becoming together. Although I do have to say, if someone came to me and said, and I want to be here to take care of your children and your grandchildren and your great grandchildren and so on and so on and so on, I'd be like, what? No, thanks.
That was the selling point for Claire.
No, it was.
If you look at her reaction, and you're saying no thanks?
It was weird. A little creepy.
If you knew that the person that you were in love with would live longer than you, for sure, and take care of your lineage, you wouldn't entertain it?
No, because as the recent episode of Buffy that we watched, I'd be worried that he would want to make a robot version of me to be with, because yes, he doesn't have feelings or emotions, but there's a part of his programming, as Data would say.
Okay, hold on. Let me flip it into a reality point for you, Hayley. Let's say that you were found out that you were going to live for 6 months, and the person that you're courting, you have a relationship with, promised you, after you pass, I'm going to watch over your child and anyone else that you care for afterwards. That's kind of the point with that, is that I got from it. And that was like when you saw Claire's reaction to when Isaac said that, even though his is definitely like, we're talking generations here, because didn't he spend like 900 years on a planet, in that weird time shift thing?
Yeah.
So he's done this before, but still, I'm just saying the thought behind it really made her think.
No, it did. It did. But then it led her to go to, and I think one of my favorite moments of this episode, talking to Claire, or talking with Tala and Kelly, like they're all sitting down and they're talking about it and having wine and things like that, like was very real. And I appreciate that, because we don't see a lot of that a lot of the time in other sci-fi shows. It led her to that. And she was still like, questioning like whether that was a sweet thing or kind of like a weird thing. So, but I appreciate your point.
Yeah.
It's just kind of weird.
Kyle, your thoughts? Marriage. Kayla.
I think
human.
I think here in this case, because of how they built this story, especially going into this season where we didn't know what their status was because of the events of season 2. And I think the game changer was obviously the episode where Isaac, even for just that short time, got to experience true emotion and actually profess his actual love and how deep it ran for Claire. And that resonated and that stuck with her. Even though he wasn't able, unfortunately, to keep that emotion, Claire knew it was in there. She knew it was real. She knew it wasn't fake. You add into this aspect, you have Isaac saying, no, I don't want to just take care of you. I want you to take care of your lineage, of your family. Now, yeah, I can see Hayley's point where that would probably feel a little bit creepy on one hand. But if you think about it like this is a being we know is going to live maybe even well beyond what your lineage lasts. But to know that your family has somebody who's going to protect them and look over them like Isaac and his very large and extended family, that your lineage is going to at least have somebody there to protect them, to be their guardian. That's a lot, because Isaac could have easily said, well, my programming ends with my experiment. My programming ends with your death, with your death. That ends this cycle. And he said, no, I want to be there and chart your entire lineage. It's not just you. It's everything that you represent, and it comes from you. So Ty and Marcus, who come from Claire. So that's a very powerful thing. So, I mean, it makes sense. And I think if we were to continue on, it would be very interesting, the relationship dynamic with them being married and how that some of the stuff they could play off with there. But again,
there's some comedy gold there. I'm just saying.
Yeah, there's a lot of comedy gold there. And let's be honest with you, too. It would be interesting to see how Ty, especially who already kind of worships Isaac, now that he's basically stepdad Isaac, how things could go with that. But I also think if this is the way to wrap up the Orville, if you're going to wrap it up on a positive note, there isn't a much better positive note that you could have wrapped it up on than this moment.
That Vegas bachelor party scene, where can I get gold couches? I'm just saying. I'm going to throw that out there right now. Okay, so I was fine with this. I liked how it came to fruition. I think I think the whole Isaac thing has been one of the most interesting parts about this. Even having to explain to Kaylon one, no, this is not an enslavement, and this is happening all over again for us. This is a mutual
feel that way.
I thought was very, very funny. But I was fine with it. I kind of had a feeling it was happening. I just didn't know when it was going to happen. So, but I like the lead up to it. Although I'm just going to say, Bortus, that was a dick move, hijacking it right when Malloy was being asked for the best man position. You don't do that. Not cool. Just saying.
I didn't.
All right.
All kidding aside.
Yes. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here, and we're going to come back. We're going to discuss some trivia, and we're going to get to our away missions. Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. Here are the other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. Culture Clash, where we discuss the latest in entertainment and pop culture. Blooded Kings, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theater, we celebrate our favorite movies. And Time Warp, our Fandom Flashback show discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie, TV, and pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Hair Metal Podcast, we cover the rock metal music of the 80s and early 90s. Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, discussing the time-traveling Doctor Who universe. Lethal Mullet, an action film podcast covering the 80s, 90s, and beyond. Also, check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, our Star Wars podcast. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast with a deep dive into the final frontier. The Fandom Show, our Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube show discussing the hottest topics in fandom. The True Believers MCU podcast, discussing the Marvel Cinematic and Television Universe. Union Federation, our Star Trek and the Orville show. And we're proud to welcome the BQN Network to the Fandom Podcast Network. please visit our friends on the BQN Network, a Star Trek Universe podcast that also includes your favorite topics, movies, history, superheroes, and more. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on YouTube. The Fandom Podcast Network is also on all major podcast platforms. The Fandom Podcast Network audio master feed is on Podbean at fpnet.podbean.com. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom. All right, welcome back to Union Federation, episode 144. We are discussing the Orville New Horizons, season 3, episode 10, Future Unknown. Season finale or series finale? Anyway, we're going to continue with some episode trivia. So Halston Sage is credited as a special guest star at the beginning of the episode's closing credits for her role as Alara Katarn in order to avoid spoiling the character's appearance in the episode in the beginning. Interesting timeline stuff here to make you guys think about it here. So this episode takes place 3 months following the episode 6 Twice in a Lifetime as Gordon receives a sandwich that was displaced by the Aronov device. So glad that came back. If there's anything that they returned to, glad the sandwich came back. It is revealed that the Planetary Union was founded sometime before 2235 and that the early Union explorers acted more like missionaries than observers before discovering the devastating effects that sharing technology could have on a society. This episode continues the events originally seen in the first season's majority rule in the approximately 3 years since the government on Sargas 4 has become even more repressive. And some IMDb trivia here. Norm Macdonald's final appearance as Yaphet. Macdonald completed voiceover work for the season prior to his death in September of 2021. This is his final role. Did you guys have any feelings of that? You know, when I saw him kind of like as Yaphet, you know, laughing about what Malloy was teasing John about and some of the other things. Kyle, it's kind of a bittersweet ending, isn't it?
Yeah, and I hadn't realized that he had actually finished that work. I was kind of wondering if they were doing some digital work there, pulling some of his other dialogue from TV shows and stuff and putting that together. So I was glad to find out that he did get to finish his work free off it. And that
I remember someone, either it was Seth or someone, saying that when he died, he had already finished all of his voice work on it. So obviously that you know, all of this stuff is written out in advance, and there's probably some tweaks here and there that they have to do to some of the script depending on who's available or not. But it was nice. Kat, your thoughts on Norm Macdonald as Yaphet?
You know, as for voice work, I thought he did a great job. He's got such a distinctive voice, so you know it's him when you hear him. It'll be sad that he's gone. But I did notice that they didn't give him a lot of lines in any of the episodes, like a little line here or there. So I wonder if they cut a lot of stuff out just because of that, so that people would be wondering, who is that or why is this?
That's an interesting point. He's had in previous seasons, he's had a little bit more to do, especially during when he helped save the ship from the Kalon taking over the Orville. Hayley, your thoughts? It seems like his stuff was just kind of a few funny lines here and there this whole season.
Yeah, and part of me wonders if, you know, if his health was part of that, you know, beforehand, if he just wasn't able to do much, because, you know, we think voice acting, oh, that's super easy, I could do that, but it's really quite a lot as well. So it's kind of, yeah, I think it was nice that they were able to at least continue it and not have somebody else step into that role.
Yeah. The beginning of Ed's speech at the wedding ceremony is taken from the classic Star Trek episode Balance of Terror, repeated in the Strange New Worlds episode Equality of Mercy. I didn't catch this. Did you, Hayley?
No, I didn't. Yeah. And I'd have to go back and listen to it again.
I think our friend Norman caught that, but I did not. And I noticed that in the badge, Lysella presents her badge to Ed and Kelly, that it was a thicker version of the badge than the one that I have here and the ones that you see in that original episode. But also astute viewers noticed that she had 7,932 downvotes and 142,943 upvotes. So she was doing pretty good on that part, at least. Kelly tells Lucella that the Union has rules against playing God and that it doesn't work out well. Trust her. Kelly was identified as a deity on an undeveloped world, caught phasing between dimensions in the final episode of the first season. Yeah, that was kind of a mess up there. Episode occurs exactly 3 months after the events of Orville, twice in Lifetime. Previously, Lamar sent Malloy's egg sandwich 3 months in the future. While Malloy isn't engineering and is upset about being edged out of being Isaac's best man, the sandwich materializes, making him feel better. I still laugh about that. Bortus is finally heard singing, ending a long-running gag where he is claimed to be a good singer, but has never been heard singing, even being cut off occasion when he was about to sing. The above is incorrect, of course. We'd heard him sing when he was distracting the entire crew in the secret operation for Topa. So there was some disparities there. And I thought he's a pretty decent singer. I just don't think he's a good Elvis impersonator. I'm just going to put that out there right now.
I don't know. He rocked the wig well. He rocked the wig well. Come on now.
I think he should have done more of a young Elvis impersonator. That might have been better. Maybe. I don't know. But anyway, whatever. Halston Sage appears as Alara Katarn for the first time since season 2's The Road Not Taken. Though since that episode took place in an alternate timeline, this is her first appearance as the primary timeline's Alara Katarn since the episode Home early in the second season. While Alara and her replacement Tala Kiali briefly met in The Road Not Taken, it's the first time their primary timeline themselves have interacted. And last but not least, with Alara's surprise cameo appearance, the entire first and second season iterations of the crew are represented. How if the full season 3 crew is not, as the recently deceased Ensign Burke does not appear, nor does she even mentioned by the other characters. Kyle, you mentioned too that seemed to be a hot seat, that maybe we got to be careful about that navigational spot there. But was it weird that she wasn't recognized in this at all, Kyle?
That was one of the problems I was going to discuss later on in the episode.
Okay.
It can't have been that much time. It can't have been that much time since the end of events of the prior episode. And to not even mention her seems a little, just not even a moment where like Malloy looks over or Ed looks over at the chair or something like that. Even if it just had a moment where it was empty for a moment.
We did have a moment when it was empty when Isaac asks Malloy to be the best man. There's no one sitting there.
But like I said, to have that moment of somebody recognizes that chair is empty.
Yeah, like just a pan over, a look to that seat, in the beginning or something like that. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. All right, guys, let's go ahead and let's hit some away missions. All right. A couple of them we're going to talk about. The first one is Lucella is granted asylum aboard the Orville. All right, guys, I want to talk about this other conversation that Lucella has with Mercer and Kelly. And I'll go into the reason why. But Mercer says, in effect, you're asking for asylum. Lucella says, yes. Mercer, generally people who request asylum are victims of persecution or their descendants fleeing an oppressive government. Lucella says, you've been to my world. Wouldn't you call it an oppressive government? Kelly says, I would call it a volatile society. Mercer says, Lucella, your home is a developing world that we're not even supposed to have contact with. And Lucella finishes by saying, fine, you never have to talk to anyone else, but let me go with you. Captain, your friend almost died because my planet voted him down, and it's only gotten worse. I've lost 2 friends this past year because they said or did things that the feed didn't like. Everyone's scared and paranoid because nobody trusts each other. And the only time anyone feels like they belong to something larger than themselves is when they're part of a mass downvote. They can't come together unless they're targeting someone. I won't go back, please. I've helped your friend when he was in trouble. Now help me. And I threw this in there. Public executions and stoning anyone? I mean, it's
more like social media.
Yeah, it's like a mob mentality, basically. So the subplot reflects current cancel culture, if you think about it, and past history of people being in fear of not speaking up for what's right and being persecuted in the public eye. This society runs on controlling fear. And when Lysella sees the technology that the Orville and Union have, and she sees how it could help her world on Sargas 4, she wants to go back. So I wanted to get your guys' thoughts here on, again, the Orville writers and creators turning a mirror on us. And if you were her, would you try? Cat.
Would I try to go back to my own world with that technology? Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How would you do it? What would you do?
I probably wouldn't try sneaking it the way she did. I would probably do it a different way, one that would be maybe a little harder to find, or maybe just turn off the bio scanner thing so they couldn't scan it.
Not how you would do it. What you would do with it once you had it.
Oh, I would do exactly what I think she would do, is show it to the government and then try to replicate it, and then replicate it for everybody and make sure everyone had one so that they don't fall into the same, like, only I have it, now I have all the power. Like, nope.
How would you know who to trust? How would you know who to trust with that and not use it in a nefarious way?
You wouldn't. You'd have to just keep your fingers crossed, hope for the best, and everyone would essentially become more understandable that, hey, this is something good. Let's get rid of war, famine.
I almost feel like you have to go public with it right away. And so if you knew something happened to you,
Yeah. No, I agree.
that it's out there and everyone knows about it at the same time, so.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Get on the news and say, hey, I have this device that's going to save the world. Let's use it Let's use it reliably. Yeah.
What about the idea that this is basically putting a mirror in front of us and how we've been reacting as a society lately with social media, cancel culture, and of course the history of people wanting to say and do the right things and getting persecuted for it?
Well, I mean, people are going to do what they're going to do. There's nothing we can really do about it. We can't control people. We're not like Isaac. We're not all connected together.
Yeah, that's true. Hayley. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kat.
No, I say you can tell what certain the people, like what they were showing the Kalon, they started changing to see who's different. It's like, like Kalon Prime has yellow eyes, everyone else has red eyes. Isaac has blue eyes. So, hopefully things will start changing.
Hayley, your thoughts on how this kind of reflects us, and what would you do if you were Lysella?
Yeah. So, I don't know if you guys remember when Twitter was thinking about putting a dislike so that you could dislike somebody's tweet. That's what I think of, is this, I like this thing, or I don't like this thing, or I like this thing. And, people, putting things out on social media, whether it's Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, to get the likes, to get the comments, and get the positivity. And then, you think of the people who are like start being negative, and then that can spiral. And then, the further stuff just kind of spirals down into negativity, and how people want people, that balance, and they want people to like their stuff and that kind of thing. And so that society really reflects this, in this idea of, I've got to be popular and I've got to put out positive stuff, and people like my stuff. And the more people that like my stuff, the better I am, and things like that. As far as that mirror goes, I think that's pretty accurate in that. And, it's sad to see, but it was also interesting, this planet that, if you're downvoted enough, and disliked enough, that you have to apologize, you could be killed, and the negative outcomes from that is quite interesting. So, and fear, fear is a thing, and people like to control and fear because it keeps them in power. And if you keep people afraid, it just keeps you in power longer. And so it is quite reflective to a lot of different aspects currently. And I was, again, not expecting that in this episode. I really didn't know where this last episode of the season was going to go. And it really kind of went in directions that I wasn't expecting, which was actually really nice to see. And so I appreciated that. As far as if I would do the same thing as Lysella, that's really hard, because we're looking at this from an outsider's perspective. I could see myself potentially wanting to do something similar, maybe going super old school and like writing stuff down, like maybe drawing a diagram of it, because is paper and pen really going to get flagged by the thing? Probably not. Just saying. But then to a degree, I don't know, there's that part of me that would be left brain enough to say this really could be damaging in the wrong hands. And if I am leaving my planet because I can't trust the people and I don't trust the system, how would I don't think I would be able to say, if I take this back, that I could trust that system to do the right thing.
Excellent point. That's what I would be in fear of as well. Kyle.
I want everybody to remember that the first episode that this planet aired with this planet was in 2017. Think about in that time frame now where we're at. And I hate to say it, but it's a sad social commentary, because the aspect of ganging up on everybody, that's when people feel like they're part of something. That is cancel culture. That is cyberbullying. That is so many things that are happening in our society now, where we put the focus on the negative. We don't put the focus on the positive. And it doesn't matter whether it's about a movie or something political or something else. We seem to want to, even when we make a positive comment, take something down with it. We can't just uplift. And this is where they're reflecting of that in the Solid Own Society is that it's like the downvoting is getting worse. The events of the downvoting are getting worse. There's a social decline going on in her planet and her whole planet and their whole societal system. I can understand why she would ask for asylum, and I truly do get it. But I also wonder, should the Orville have really taken her in based off of asylum? The only reason she even knows they exist is because she stumbled upon them and figured it out. Nobody else on their planet knows they even exist. So is it the Orville's place to intervene in an asylum like that, even though they want to help this girl who's their friend? But is it an asylum worthy thing? As far as Lucilla wanting to help take the technology to help, I think, especially under the circumstances where she talked about losing 2 friends to downvoting, yeah, I want this technology. This is going to help me save my friends, my loved ones' lives. That is the thinking there. And when you're that determined, you're going to do like she did. And the Orville just happened to have things to detect. Hey, the technology is being taken off of the ship. If it were me, I don't necessarily know that I would take it to my governments. I might try to take it to some of my more known scientists, maybe some. What I would, actually, the approach I would do, I would take the approach that was used in Farscape when John Crichton came with the advanced technology and he made it back to Earth and he had some spectacular. He's like, either every country gets it or nobody gets it. I want representatives here learning this, supervised by me. Every country from every country getting this. And of course, he took it to the U.S. and Farscape, and they were like, no, it needs to be ours. The world's changed. 9/11 happened, all because that was the time Farscape was coming. He's like, no, it's either the entire world or nothing at all. And I think that would be the kind of approach I would try to take with it. Is that what, if you can't work together on it, you don't get it. But this can change our planet and save lives. What's more important to you? And I put it out there in the social media. This is out here. Let the world know it's there. It's up to the people in charge to come together to make it work. Put the pressure on
Kyle.
them.
Thanks, Kyle. I didn't know he made it back.
Well, but there's more stories to that. So,
what are you referencing, Hayley?
She hasn't watched Farscape.
Farscape. Okay, gotcha. It's been a while since I've seen it. I may take more of an underground approach first. I like the idea of science finding someone. Maybe I'd go to Hayley first. Actually, that's what I would do.
Oh, I'll go to Hayley first.
Go to Hayley first, and then we try to find some nice, peaceful science guys, and maybe create a group of collective science scientists from around the world, maybe find a way to screen them first, that they're not evil science. If they're wearing like a specific type of lab coat that might give them away, might say no. Exactly, Hayley. Dr. Evil. But man, putting it out there on social media puts a target on you personally that you may not be ready for, especially in nowadays society. I might sit on it for a while, maybe first, and kind of see what happens. No one finds it, but I kind of want to see what happens. If this, and is the point that you made, Kyle, that episode came out in 2017. Yes, a lot has happened. The term cancel culture has happened since then, and this is a new way. This is a new version of mob mentality, to be honest with you. Has gone through thousands of years of human culture, hundreds of years, whatever you want to say, whether it's people, let's go out to the hanging today, let's go out to the rock stoning today, and
that'd be a little older.
Yeah,
no,
well, you get my point, guys. You get my point, guys.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about how people are lambasted on social media in a mob mentality way. Look at Twitter.
Yeah.
Come on, So I'm just gonna say that's that I love how this season and just the Orville in general has handled these social commentaries in a much more direct way than Star Trek ever has. Kyle.
I just want to weigh in too, because something you said kind of put a thought process in my head about maybe I'll just hold on to it for a while, see how things develop. In Lucella's case, she's doing it because she's going to try to protect people she loves so they don't get downvoted and killed. So how long would you be able to sit on it, per se, if somebody you love was getting downvoted to that extreme of a point? And so the other problem with this is how clearly is she thinking, or how clearly would you be thinking if you had this something, because your first primary thought is saving people you love and protecting your loved ones and improving your planet. So I think one of the biggest problems with this is how rational and how clear-headed can you be with this?
She wasn't. And if we remember correctly, at the end of this episode, she's on the Orville, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's
not time yet, because bringing that technology down is just throwing more kerosene on the fire.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That society is not ready for that technology. And you could be said the same thing for ours. Just saying.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I see the point exactly. It's just, it's a weird dichotomy. I think each person would have to ask themselves, they have this technology that could change things. Could you be with the rationale? Could you hold on? Could you be rational with your thinking of it, seeing everything that's going on around you? It's a very tough quandary.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like having a weapon of mass device, and you have the option to use it, and you're sitting on it.
Yeah,
no one else knows.
That's a great point.
Anyway, guys, let's head into away mission number 2. All right. This is the big discussion I want us to have here, guys. So, detailed reaction breakdown of this season / series finale. This season didn't wrap up all loose ends. This may not have satisfied many fans. Just going to throw some reviews out there that I got off IMDb directly. And I did want to mention that when it comes to IMDb reviews, it's not the final word. It's not the say all be all. But what I did want to mention, though, that out of 10, this particular episode has an 8.3 rating on it with 775 contributors. So that kind of gives you an idea. That's a high ranking, by the way. However, there is some negative reviews on this show, and some people feel that way as well, like yourself, Kat. But I want to talk about this real quick. This is a 8 out of 10. Filler, yes, but better than your average filler. Whilst it seems more like a mid-season filler episode after the last episode's action-packed roller coaster ride, it still was a good all-around story, closing out a couple of story threads, but leaving a couple open for future possible season or maybe a full movie. We can only hope we haven't seen the last of the Orville and her crew. There's a 10 out of 10. A wonderful season finale. We want a 4th season. The Orville wrapped up this season in an emotional yet funny episode, much like the show in general. Seth MacFarlane created a wonderful future, one many of us would love to be part of, and we want more. Hashtag renew the Orville. Here's another 10 out of 10. A lovely end to the great season. After the action-packed previous episode, it was a nice change of pace, having a more character-focused episode for the finale. This is definitely one of the funniest episodes of the season, perhaps the whole show, with plenty of callbacks, witty one-liners, and classic McFarlisms that made me fall in love with the show in the first place. It was also fun to learn a bit more in depth about the Union culture and why they have such stringent laws about cultural contamination. I know some people are a bit burnt out on the story surrounding the Mocklins and the Kalon, but this episode approaches it from a different angle and does it not feel like it's treading the same ground again. The return of a few familiar faces gives this episode a show finale feel, and whilst I am truly desperate for another season, I think I could just about live with this being my last adventure with the Orville crew. And that's an interesting thing to think of, guys. But I said there is some negative reviews. I found one here, a 3 out of 10. Had enough of the season. Many episodes to go. What else here? We got 1 out of 10. Might as well be a clip show. 2 out of 10. I wouldn't renew this show. First 2 seasons were fantastic, but this season had slid down the hill. For the most part, this episodes this season, including this one, have been boring, unfunny, and sappy. I'm done wasting time for something to happen. Even if it's renewed, I will not be a returning viewer. So, and they said, someone else said episode 9 should have been the finale. So I want to get your guys' thoughts here. Okay, I'm going to wait to say what Michael Wynn Johnson said. Kat, I want to come to you first. Hear me out for a second while I'm asking you this question. We've had a deep discussion already about the stuff that's been in this episode, okay? We've mentioned some funny moments. This episode has got us thinking about certain things. You said this episode is garbage. Do you still feel that way?
Yes and no. I mean, more no, because I listened to you guys talking about it and going back to other stuff. Did I like the episode? Not really. Would I watch this one again? Probably not. Would I stop at episode 9? Absolutely. But will I watch next season? Absolutely. Because I know there's, like we said, we talked about some stuff that they should have done, or at least preluded to. They didn't. So I know next season is going to have more of what we wanted to see. Whether there's slow episodes like this one, there have to be, because they have to have character development shows. If not, the show just doesn't go anywhere. It ends on season 1. Thinking about it, this should have been like a season episode, like 3 episode. Reverse some of the order and put this as episode 3. That this is the character building one, and let's end it on 9. That's how I would have done it. But then again, I'm not a director, writer, or smart enough guy to figure out Seth MacFarlane's brain. I don't think anyone is. But all in all, I mean, it was a good episode. Yes. Would I watch it again? Probably not.
Interesting. Hayley, what are your thoughts on that?
So, I mean, I enjoyed it. I think, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, as far as if this is it, if this is the final episode, I'm good with it. I think, again, it left it to the imagination that we can take it. If they get another season, if they get like a mini series, if they get a spin-off show for like one of the other characters, like I mentioned last time when we were talking about, maybe Grayson becomes a captain and Ed does something else, or he takes a step back, that kind of stuff. I think it leaves that door open to possibilities rather than constraining itself, because they could have ended differently. Because my guess is somewhere in filming, they knew they weren't going to have another one, just because they did wrap up like the Kalon thing and stuff like that. So they left it open to those possibilities of something down the road happening. And so if this is where it is, I appreciate that. And I liked it for what it is. And again, I laughed a lot. which was nice.
What about you, Kyle?
So this is where the quandary comes in for me with this episode. This is a great episode of the Orville. It's poignant. It's funny. In fact, it's probably the most, honestly, like I said, it feels like the most season 2 level episode that we've had in season 3. Season 3 has taken it up such a notch with its commentary, with the more seriousness of the episodes. This felt like it got back to a little bit of the Orville fun, Kevin, that we talked about missing on earlier in the season.
Right.
I think you have to look at this one of two ways. It's a great episode, but because it is possibly the final episode of this series altogether, and as it stands right now, because we are in limbo, I don't think we can pass full judgment on it. If I'm going in right now thinking how I'm thinking, well, let's just say we know this is it for the Orville, I think it does a little bit of disservice. Not that every plot line needed to be wrapped up, but I do feel episode 9 ended on a bit of a cliffhanger with Ed's daughter. And I think to leave that plot point hanging and coming off such a serious episode with such serious inclinations and with a lot of questions a lot of people had about what's the future of Ed's daughter, what's the future of the Krill, what's going on here, to not take what could be your final season, especially when you have these non-time constraints that Hulu had granted the Orville, to where you could have had that story and the marriage between Claire and Isaac still be the B plot. I think you could have done that, and I think it would have probably been a little bit truer ending and fellow closure for fans if this is the end of the Orville. But I got to look at it from Seth's perspective too. He probably wants to do more Orville. He said he wants to do more Orville. So why am I going to write the final episode and wrap up everything completely tight if I want to do more of this? And then I have something, as you said, Kevin, left on the hook, not so much to sell to the fans, but to sell to Disney and sell to the creators there and say, hey, I have a whole nother season planned out, rescuing Ed's daughter, dealing with this Mocklin thing, whether it's a season, whether it's movies, whatever. Seth MacFarlane is very smart, and he left something on the hook to sell. But as the fans, I can understand the frustration because I don't feel completely satisfied with it. It was like, okay, you know what it was, Kevin? It was going to eat a meal at Applebee's. It was an okay meal, but it wasn't outstanding. It left you feeling like, oh, I just ate a really good meal. It was like, okay, I feel full, but there's something a little more that I needed there. It was.
You shaming Applebee's?
I'm not shaming Applebee's. But what I'm saying is like going from a gourmet restaurant to a gourmet 5-star restaurant to Apple. But I think that's kind of my feeling here is, again, outstanding episode on its own and as a regular part of the Orville. To be the possible series finale, yeah, not so much.
Okay. I want to read the last 2 paragraphs that Michael Wynn Johnson had for this article. And he does a great job there at Den of Geek as usual. He goes, it also puts this review in a new situation. Can the show be judged on its fan service moments, attempts at humor, or a storyline that doesn't really offer any conflict or challenge? Is it unfair to compare it to last week's episode? Think about that, guys. Is it unfair to compare it to last week's episode that was arguably one of the strongest of the entire run of the show? If the show is renewed, would Domino would have been the season finale instead? Should have been? It is almost as if you have to approach this episode much like Dr. Schrodinger would have done with his cat. Due to its strange mix in the situation the show finds itself in, Future Unknown justifiably feels like a mixed bag. There are genuine laughs. The fan service is occasionally fun, including the return of Alara, which was one of the most gleeful moments of the season. And yet, perhaps with the future being truly unknown, there's an uncertainty in regards to how to appreciate this episode. If there is a season 4, Future Unknown merely feels like a placeholder. If it is the last episode fans will ever see, it certainly gave everyone enough stickily sweet moments that felt like a warm hug goodbye to the Orville family. It simply won't be known until the future unfolds. He gives it a rating 3 out of 5. If this is the last episode of the Orville, can you find yourself to eventually be okay with how this show ended? I'm going to answer that question. I'm fine with it. However, I don't think this is the end of Orville going forward. Whether we get books that might go into this, if we don't get an actual television shows or movies, I just have a feeling that the fan base that has been developed because of this, it's passionate. It might be smaller than a lot of the other bigger ones, but it's passionate. Kind of reminds me of the Highlander fandom, just saying. With this being the last TV episode, I'm fine with it because of the moments that we had with the characters. I kind of had a flashback, Kyle, when I was watching the Game of Thrones series, and it seems like the episode, whether second to last, was always like the big episode where something happened, whether it was the Red Wedding or the big battle. Then there was like the last episode that kind of like was transitioning into the next season. It wasn't quite as thematically, impactful as the previous episode or whatever, whether it was gut wrenching or whatever. I kind of got that feeling with this episode, but I was satisfied with it because of all of the moments I had with the crew. Like they had some downtime to relax. And I think that as fans, we should look at that and consider a little bit. That yes, we didn't get certain things explained, whether it was Ed's daughter and a lot of the other stuff happening with the Mocklins and the Krill. That's really the big hanging fruit there, basically, is that storyline right now. Okay. And whether or not there's going to be another big threat, whether it is the Krill or the Mocklins. But I'm okay with the way that it ended. I'm not trying to convince myself of that. I genuinely feel that way. Will I revisit and rewatch this episode? Hell yes. Because there's just too many moments I found entertaining. And there's all these little things that I could pull from it again. So, I understand the way Cat feels. Trust me, dude. I know exactly where you're coming from. And I get it. I really do. I had to kind of prepare myself. Maybe that 30 minutes into the show pause where I had to go, this is not going where I was expecting it. Maybe that helped me. I don't know. But that's my thoughts on it. But I do want to ask you guys. Oh, yeah, Kat?
I like what Kyle said about the putting the thing into B series. This would have been a great way, what we were talking about, to have our episode go the way we thought it would, and have the B series of the episode be the wedding.
Yeah. Like if the A plot was trying to get Ed's daughter, and then instead of having Lysella return, have the wedding be that part. Yeah, no, I get it.
That could go that whole thing.
Yeah. But you know what? I gotta say, it's kind of brave that they did go this way. They didn't wrap it up in a tiny little bow and saying, this is the last episode. Everything's sewn up. It's great. Yay. I'm kind of glad there's still that thing out there. There's still a thing out there. And I'm happy with that.
BC847.
Yeah. But I did want to mention something. I want to get your guys' one opinion as we start to wrap this up here. Kelly Grayson's character has been set up to take command of a Union starship or captain. Maybe another spinoff. Seth has taken a back seat and let Adrian Palicki shine. She has had a lot of great moments in this series, whether it's with Topa, whether it's making some command decisions. And there was a one-off line that made me think more about this in this episode, guys. When Ed responds to Kelly, telling Ed what Lysella wants to go back home, Ed says, well, she's been here a lot longer this time. She's seen a lot more. You're the one that's been spending time with her. Let me ask you this. If you had to make the call on your own, what would you do? Guys, I want your thoughts on this. Kelly her character has really shined in this. She's become a badass. She's fought and kicked butt. She's made command decisions. One of the highlights of this. Kat, I wanted to get your opinion on this. If there is some more Orville, would you mind seeing her maybe become a captain, maybe have a spin-off role? Just throwing this out. What do you think of Kelly?
I would like her to stay on the show, keep the show the way it is, have Mercer become the new admiral that we lost from Ted Danson's character, and let her be the captain of the Orville. I have no problem with that. I thought she did a great job. A little rough in the beginning, season 1, season 2, moving in season 2, she got more and more. Season 3, and like I said, the whole bit of Topa and being the motherly figure. Yeah, absolutely. She's definitely, in my opinion, and this might offend people, but I didn't watch a lot of Voyager. Didn't really like the show. She killed it way better than the episode I've seen with Janeway. I'd rather watch her, the Captain, be her under her deploy than Janeway.
Interesting. Hayley, your thoughts on Kelly?
Well, I mean, I've already mentioned this. I think that they definitely kind of have grown her character a lot more, which is super fantastic. I think they need to address the elephant in the room, which is her alcoholism. But
I brought that up.
yeah. And so I think, but if they did want to do something spin-off or have Mercer take a step back from being captain and have her step in and fill that role and continue it that way, I think that would be fantastic.
What about you, Kyle? Kelly?
So this is again the genius of Seth MacFarlane. Seth MacFarlane has written this whole season with Mercer kind of having taken a step back, Kelly kind of coming up forward, like you said, Kevin. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One, Adrienne Padalecki deserves some showcase in this show. She is a phenomenal actress, and she deserves a showcase. Two, Seth knows that even if the Orville comes back because of his other commitments now, that maybe he can't be a full part of it on screen like he would like to be. So why not set it up now to where Kelly's presence looms larger and looms larger? And like I said last week, and like Kat brought up, make Mercer an admiral to where Seth can still guest on the show when needed, but he's not required there to be a full-time schedule. And I think he's grown the Kelly character enough, and I think there's enough demons there for Kelly that they can do some very interesting stories with her. And one of the things that I really liked about this season, you talked about her being motherly, Kevin. What I saw Laura was like being big sisterly to both Topa and Lysella. Being the big sister, not so much being motherly protective, but also telling them like it is, but knowing I'm here for you. But I'm going to tell you like it is too, and you're going to have to deal with it. Sometimes moms get a little too overprotective. Being more of a big sister, you're not afraid to tell them the things they don't want to hear as well. Right. So I really like that development in her personality. And it's something that I think we see, if you go back and watch the earlier seasons, you see it kind of growing as she kind of went from like the stern parent now to with the craziness of like Malloy and Lamar and some of their hijinks to kind of becoming this, I'm just overseeing everybody. She's become much more of a leader, I think, as the show has gone on. And I think Seth really wrote her up well this season and really set it up for that distinct possibility.
Kyle, I just want to get your opinion on this. As of this recording, August 6, 2022, we have no word confirmation of whether the Orville will be canceled or renewed. I know that there was an article that came out that rumors it might be, and then I think John Cazar replied to that. I don't remember all the details. What have you heard or seen regarding that?
So I've been following this pretty closely and researching this ever since Seth signed his Comcast NBC deal, because that really got a lot of people panicked of what's the future of the Orville. In the last about 2 months, Seth has really gone on the offensive, saying, I want more. I want more. It's Disney's decision, but I want to do more. Now, the question is how much is he available to do more? And we have to be honest here with us. Several members of the cast have signed on to new projects. And I don't know how that would affect any future Orville products. My guess is this. Disney would not be making the move to move the Orville to Disney Plus unless they see something there. And I think they do see something there. And Kevin, we talked about this a little bit last week as far as hashtag renew the Orville, and the post you had put it out. And now with it coming on Disney Plus and watching it on Disney Plus to up the numbers. Another key aspect to this is and it was brought to my attention actually as we were talking in this episode. The first season was in 2017. How many people is season 3 their first exposure to the Orville? I mean, yes, some of them they have Hulu, they can go back and watch it on Hulu. But how many more people have Disney Plus that maybe don't have Hulu or
it's not like Fox is repeating it, So yeah.
So this Disney Plus is basically our way of getting it on Blu-ray or DVD. It's a cheaper streaming service on its own compared to getting Hulu. So this is an opportunity they have to really push this. I don't think we're going to have an Orville decision until later this year. I truly don't think it's something that we're going to have here in the next few weeks. I think it's going to be a little later this year. And I'm with you, Kevin. I don't necessarily think it's going to be another full-length show. We could have a couple of films. We could have a 3-episode miniseries or something like that. I think I'm very hopeful that we will have something more Orville. I just don't know when, but I think the decision is going to be a little bit more dragged out than normal because I think Disney really wants to see how it's going to be responded to on Disney Plus.
Okay, so as you mentioned, the hashtag Renew the Orville. Please share that out there, fans. If you want to have any say in encouraging the suits at Disney / Fox, now that Fox is owned by Disney, when it hits Disney Plus, rewatch it. Because they pay attention to not how many people are watching it, but how many times you rewatch it and they know the difference. If a show is being rewatched by more than once in a household, they know that, and that goes into the decision making. So, the history of Fox canceling shows too soon goes back to the 90s, guys. So maybe it should be hashtag Renew the Orville, hashtag Disney Don't Be Fox. So I don't know.
One other point, Kevin. The future of the Orville, I think, is also going to indicate just how much juice Seth MacFarlane really has in Hollywood right now. A lot of people think he's at maybe his apex right now. So if he can get the Orville renewed, because right now it seems like Seth MacFarlane shows are just a license to print money for the most part. So
Family Guy was canceled. Yeah. DVD sales proved otherwise, and it's still going on. So, guys, as we wrap this up, I want to get your final thoughts on this episode. Anything you want to say about the Orville? Cat, you're our guest. Thank you for coming on, by the way, man.
Oh, my pleasure, man. It was fun. It was not what I was expecting, and you learn a little bit.
That's it?
That's it.
All right. Short and sweet. Love it, bro. Hayley.
I don't have any final thoughts on this episode other than I enjoyed it for the ride that it was, and I'm thoroughly intrigued by this notion of this episode with Schrodinger's cat. And I don't know if you guys saw my face as I was trying to work out why he was calling this episode Schrodinger's cat, and I guess the only conclusion I can draw is if you don't watch it, it doesn't exist. And if you do, it's there because Schrodinger's cat was either dead or alive, but he didn't know until he opened the box. So
you need to keep watching. That was the message, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Glad you questioned that, by the way.
I'm a psychologist. Of course, I'm going to question
Kyle.
An episode that is a great episode of the Orville and fully enjoyable, a very fun episode, some great character moments. If this is the end of the Orville run, I can see where people would be unsatisfied and satisfied with it. I think it's going to be one of the most interesting what is going to happen to this series since maybe Firefly ended or Farscape ended prematurely. It's going to be one of those shows that I think could be saved because of the way we are with streaming now. Look what just happened with Magnum PI. Magnum PI gets canceled on CBS, gets picked up by NBC to put on Peacock. So maybe there is a chance if the Orville gets canceled, Seth uses his power over at NBC now with his huge contract. Maybe the Orville makes one more move. I don't know who owns the rights to the Orville. I think that's a big question there, but I'm hoping we get more of this. And I know we're not done talking about the Orville here on the Union Federation, but I think the next few months are going to be some of the most interesting for the future of a television show we've seen in a good while.
Disney Plus original programming is not famous for coming onto physical media. Just give me an Orville season 3 DVD at least. Maybe a full 1 through seasons Blu-ray release with special features and interviews and bloopers behind the scenes. Come on, give me that, please. That's all I ask. If this happens to be the end of the Orville, but I feel like I'm doing my part. I'm going to keep doing my part. Do the same. Rewatch it when it hits Disney Plus. Share the hashtag Renew the Orville. That is out there like a firestorm right now. Kyle.
I just want to say this too. Thank goodness that the Orville is not an HBO Max original series right now.
If you want some feedback on why Kyle said that, please watch our Culture Clash live, especially with the news of what's going on with HBO and Warner Brothers. So, yeah. All right, guys, I want to give a shout out to Michael Wynn Johnson, who's done some great articles for this season 3 of the Orville. Thank you so much, Michael. Keep up the good work. Anyway, guys, let's go ahead and let's wrap things up here. Like to thank you guys, Cat, Kyle, Hayley. Let's get some subspace signals and find out where people can find us. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network Union Federation on these subspace channels. First of all, head to our YouTube channel. Give us a like and a subscribe. We're dropping our episodes up there. We appreciate the love there. And our master feed for all of our audio podcasts can be found on Podbean at fpnet.podbean.com. Fandom Podcast Network is on all major podcast platforms. And please, if you enjoy the discussion of Star Trek and Orville, please join our Union Federation podcast Facebook group. The Union Federation is also on Twitter and Instagram. You can also contact us directly. You can hail us on email at theunionfederation@gmail.com. My name is Kevin. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Spartan_Phoenix. Kyle, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at AKyleW or on Instagram at AKyleFandom.
And Hayley, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Trekkie01D.
Awesome. And Kat, where can we find you on social media?
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at StaticCat1.
At StaticCat1. Awesome. Also, we have partnered up with BQN. You can find BQN on Twitter and Instagram at BQN Podcast, and also on Facebook, the BQN Collective Listeners Group. Let's look into that orb of prophecy, guys. What's coming up next in Star Trek and the Orville? Well, Star Trek Lower Decks is premiering very soon here. For season 3, and Star Trek Prodigy season 1 part 2 is premiering later this year. But what's going to be coming up for the Orville for us here on Union Federation? Well, we're going to be doing a season 3 review and recap. We're going to be going over the season a little more in detail, giving our thoughts on our favorite episodes, and just getting it all into it, because we're not done with the Orville. And I'm sure we'll return to the Orville for other topics. Maybe Amy and I will kind of compare a season 3 episode with some Star Trek episode with similar topics. We had fun doing those for a while. Maybe you guys can come on for that as well. But I'd like to thank our special guest, Kat. It's good to have you back, man. I know you've been enjoying this season of the Orville. You've been talking about it. I think you had to do a little marathon to get caught up on it, because you got into it a little bit late and then you caught up on it, right?
Yeah, I didn't start watching it until I think episode 6. So I was so busy doing other stuff, and then, not really busy, I just forgot about it, actually. And then my buddy John said, hey, Orville season started. I'm like, oh, yeah, forgot about that. And now I'm on episode 6. He's like, damn it, dude.
Hayley, thank you again so much.
Thank you, as always.
Yeah. Kyle, thank you, sir, as always.
Oh, it's always a blast to be here. I need to go find that P corner one last time, though. So if you'll excuse me.
Kat, that was Kat's job to clean that up. I don't know if he got to it or not.
I saw a pile of litter. I'm just saying.
Whoa. That's not my litter. My litter's over here, bud.
Kat had to, Kyle, you had to throw in the P corner one last time? All right.
I might not get a chance again, man. I just had to do it.
It might be near the pterodon, because the pterodon takes up too much place now, so I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We're not done with the Orville. Please check back with Union Federation. Until next time, hailing frequencies are now closed.